This mid-century Tallboy went through a transformation that I think you're going to love. As you can see, it has quite a bit of dings and wear from over the years. There's peeling veneer, lots of scratches, even more than I will find later. But all in all, it still had really good construction. It's solid wood drawers. It also has a maker's mark, Ballman Cummings. Not a super well-known brand, but it's still nice to have. First things first, I am getting this clean. You will see I'm using a 7th generation bottle, but I'm just reusing it. The cleaner is actually simple green. And so I am spraying everything and wiping it down. Just helps get off all the grease and whatnot, because I'm not planning to fully strip this, and I'll be sanding it down because the paint has adhered pretty well. Always interesting what you might find on the side of the drawer. It kind of looks like they're doing math, but yeah, I guess so. But I don't know why they chose to do the side of the drawer like that. I am not planning on keeping these old drawer liners, so those of course have to go. Thankfully, they came out very easily. So as I'm looking over this piece, as I'm cleaning it, you'll find things that you may have missed before, like this came off a little bit more. This wasn't quite as peeled back, and I'm gonna have to probably throw some glue in there and clamp that to get it flush. But then you can see where this veneer is bubbling, so I think what I've seen others do is just, you could take like a straight edge type tool and then just kind of get under there and take away whatever is peeling and get to the point where it's still sealed on there. If I was going to restore this, I would probably consider, or restore it in the sense of bring it back to the wood veneer. I would consider trying to throw some glue under there and then clamping it down, but I'm not going to do that. So like I said, I'm just going to take a putty knife and wedge my way under there and peel away the veneer that's loose until I get to where it is still securely glued down. After that, I am just going to scuff sand the entire surface. I'm using a 180 grit, and that just helps get whatever paint that is currently on there to get it like a little roughed up. It's still plenty smooth, but that's going to give it a good surface for the paint to adhere to whenever I put that on. I'm also using this opportunity to sand in the drawers where there was a lot of overspray from the last person who painted this. And then later I'll use the furniture wax to make it look new again. Next up is sanding the base. Now for this one, I am sanding it down to complete bare wood. I am really hoping that I can end up staining this, and so that's why I'm going through this process. I'm just using my Surf Prep sander with an 80 grit to get through all the paint and see what I'm working with. You do have to be careful during this process that you don't burn through the veneer. Now for the legs, I'm going to use the foam pad attachment on my Surf Prep sander. This is in a medium grit, and you can see I got a multi-pack when I got my sander. All the options have come in handy for just different projects I'm working on. They're really nice because they conform to the surface that you're putting it on, and it just helps keep these legs rounded as I'm sanding. Okay, next up is repairing all of these missing spots in the veneer. I'm using Bondo, which is a 2-part epoxy filler. You'll see the gray, and then I add a blue part, which is the hardener. And then once you mix that up, you have to move pretty quickly. So I've obviously sped this up for video purposes, but you will just need to work probably within about a minute to get it where you want. So if you have a lot of spots that you're needing to repair, you'll just have to do it in batches. And for big areas like this, I will typically have to do 2 or 3 rounds. So I put it on there. You can see I'm using my stick to try to smooth it out as much so I have less to sand. And then I'll go through and sand and repair again as needed. And as you can see, I found even another area where the veneer was peeling off. So again, I'm peeling it off and then going through and repairing it with Bondo. After about 15 to 20 minutes, it's usually ready for sanding. And, if you have a deeper spot, then you might need to wait a little bit longer. But I'm just taking a 120 grit to get it all sanded down nice and smooth and flush with the rest of the surface. As you can see, there are plenty of pockets that I need to smooth out, so I'll go over again until I get it nice and smooth. All right, so now I'm just going over the rest of it. I have other areas that I've had to repair, so I'm smoothing those out, and then I'll do the same thing of just seeing how they look like and, if they need any further filling or repair. And I'm going over the drawers. There were lots of spots and dings on the drawers. The Bondo's kind of for deeper spots, and the red is a glazing putty that's for more shallow or smaller dings. And this once over just gives you an idea of all the spots that I'm needing to repair and fill over the body of it. It definitely ended up being a lot more than I thought at first, but it's worth it. So for the drawer fronts, I decided that with the paint, I didn't feel like the way that I had scuff sanded it, that it was going to be very smooth looking once the paint was on there. One of the issues you can run into is when you put the paint on there that it's going to show any places where the surface isn't even or it doesn't make a smooth transition. And so I just decided to sand all these drawer fronts down to bare wood. It was kind of a pain, but I think it ended up producing a much better look in the end. And I'm using my scraper here that has some contour attachments to get in these nooks because it works much more efficient than using a sandpaper or something like that to try to get rid of all that paint. Now, after I have used this as much as I think I can, I will come in with sandpaper to smooth it out. Using a chemical stripper is another option, but you also have to deal with the mess. So I think doing a scraper and then coming in with sandpaper is just easier, but to each his own. So, as you can see, I've done a lot of sanding that I had not planned to do. Basically the problem was if I had paint at all here and then I'd sanded it, there was like a little ridge. And just when you put paint over that, it's going to show up where it's not completely smooth. So I sanded more your prominent edges. And I went ahead and did all the drawer fronts as well. And I was going to leave this side as is. I somehow, when I was sanding, I gouged that right there. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to fix that. But I don't know, I got to figure out what exactly I'm going to do. But I have also had this veneer back here that was, sorry, it's a little bit too focused. This veneer here that was coming loose, I might need to tape that there too. I have several clamps on there to fix it. And then I'm also just in the middle, kind of a glutton for punishment, but I really want to stain this base. I think it'll be a really pretty offset to the black that I'm going to do. But, I've gotten most of it out here in the corners here, but Let me see if I can get a better picture of one. Yeah, like right here, I need to get that out. So what I'm going to do is use this paint stripper. I'm out of the clean strip that I like, but this has worked pretty well. It just has to sit longer. So I'm going to put that on there, and then I should be able to hopefully scrape that out with a brush. Well, I've gone through on the sides and with my orbital sander and a 220 grit disc, and I've sanded all this down pretty smooth. So my only kind of concerns, I didn't notice it on the other side as much, but you can really see the grain of the wood pretty well. So what I think I'm gonna do is take, sorry for moving the camera like that, but this Bondo glazing and spot putty, and fill in a lot of this, and especially here, it just, I can feel that ridge there. I think I just got it with the sander, maybe when I was like coming through here, then the corner of it got there. So that's something I need to be more watchful of in the future and get better at. And so I'm going to come through and fill this area, and then I'll have to come back and sand it again. Kind of feel like that's just been the story with this chest. So onward ho. For filling this area, I'm just using my painter's multi-tool and the Bondo glazing and spot putty, and going along the line and filling it in. This stuff dries pretty quickly. It's ready to sand within about 15 to 20 minutes. And if it's a deeper spot, you know, just like the Bondo epoxy, I wait a little bit longer, but I've found that 15 to 20 minutes is usually pretty sufficient. While that putty is drying, I'm going to come back and try to brush this paint out of these crevices. I'm just using like a medium stiffness brush, and then I have a little bucket of water here that I can put it in and rinse it out as I go. Oh, and this has been sitting for probably about 30 minutes. And it's coming out really well. So it's pretty exciting. Work smarter, not harder kind of thing. After brushing all that out, I'm going to come in with Green Easy's finishing spray. I really, really like this solution. I've just got a bigger bottle just for saving money by volume, and I've added it to a bottle that I got from Lowe's. And I'm just going to spray it in those areas and use my brush again, and it helps get anything that the stripper didn't quite get, and I'll wipe that down really well. You do want to be careful with this spray because it can stain the wood if it sets on bare wood for long. So you want to make sure to wipe it up well. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just taking my 220 grit sanding disc over this foam pad, and then I'm just going to brush over that. So I'm not reading dust, and put this on first. All right. Alright, so it didn't go on quite smooth in this area where it's darker, so I'm going to go back over with another coat, and hopefully once that dries it should be good to go. So almost there, and I probably should fill here too. More places to fill. All right, now we're to the exciting part of painting. I chose this color Basilisk Black. I have not used this color before, but I'd seen it in some pictures and was excited to try it. So I always filter my paint first and then water it down by about 10%. And here I'm making some test sprays to make sure it's a pattern I like. And then I'm just going to make my way around the piece and get it all painted. I'm overlapping by about 50% on each pass. That gets you good coverage, and the distance I'm keeping is about 6 inches away. And you can see I'm not breaking my wrist, which helps make a good even spray across the entire piece. And, you know, I gotta be honest, this is my favorite part. It is so satisfying to see the paint go on and cover up all those spots that I filled. And, you know, it makes all that hard work worth it. For the drawers, I'm using cardboard along the edges. That just helps prevent overspray that I won't have to clean up later, and you can not have to touch up as much around the edges once you're finished. And then between coats, I am lightly sanding just to smooth out any areas that need to be smoothed out. So it was kind of funny. Once this paint color dried, I was like, you know what? This looks really similar to the original color. And I was envisioning more of a darker black. So I switched to a different color. It's by the same paint company, but it's just called Jet Black, which is a darker color. So after that dried, I pulled the drawers in, and I am touching up some areas that I didn't quite get sprayed very well. And so I like to do that with a foam brush. And since there's already paint on there, it only took me 1 to 2 coats. While the drawers are inside, I added a peel and stick wallpaper, and it's a really pretty floral one. And then last step for the drawers is to refresh all the wood. I like to use Howard's Feed and Wax. It's really reasonably priced and just works really great. You can see that it just gives wood a beautiful color, and I think it's a great finishing touch to put in your furniture. I mean, look at this contrast. Tell me that doesn't look so much better on the left. And here you can see, just even on the back, like where there's a lot of variation in the color, once I put that on there, it just looks so much better. So a great product if you haven't tried it before. Back to the feet. So I am just going over this with a finer grit, and this will help get it ready for me to stain it. For stain, I am using Mohawk wiping stain in medium brown. It is an oil-based stain, so it's pretty smelly. You can see I am wearing my respirator, and then I am just applying it with a foam brush. Oh, I also forgot to mention that this was suggested to me for mid-century pieces from someone who solely does mid-century refinishing. So I like the stain, and it was pretty easy to work with. You will see that it unfortunately didn't go on quite even. Maybe could have worked with a pre-conditioner first to help with that. And then also a second coat probably would have helped even out the color. But you'll find that I find a workaround, thankfully, for that. Another good option for stain is using a gel stain. I've found that those are very easy to work with and get you pretty good even coverage. I'm working in sections because you don't want the stain to sit there for too long. And as I finish each section, I'm just wiping back the excess with a lint-free cloth. So this is the next day. It's had plenty of time to dry, and I was not happy with how uniform the absorption was. And so I'm going through with Mohawk's toning spray, and you do want to be really careful with this. You can easily spray too much or make it look streaky. This one worked out pretty well, and I'm also going to come in and make some other repairs with blending sticks, but I used it on another project that you'll see in one of my later videos where I used it on top of a dresser, and it did not work out well. So, I think this is just a practice makes perfect over time. Here is how it looks when I'm finished. Overall, it looks really good. You can see that front right leg has a dark spot toward the bottom, but I'll go in later with a blending stick to make that look better. So I just found a mistake that I made here. I did not sand this. I do not know how I missed it, but that's obviously the old paint color that I've like stained over and everything. So I'm going to try using my blending sticks rather than resanding it, staining it, all that jazz, and running the risk of it then still being kind of two-toned. So I'm going to try these Mohawk blending sticks I just bought, and hopefully they'll do the job. So blending is just a matter of picking the sticks that have the color that are similar to your stain and just going over it. This one's a little bit darker, and then I go over one that's a little bit lighter, and I'm using my finger to blend it in because it has a bit of a wax to it, and the warmth from your finger will help it spread out and look a little bit more even. So it's just a process of making multiple layers, blending with your finger, seeing how it looks until you get to a point where you're happy with it. So now I'm just going around the rest of the base and using these blending sticks to make any areas look better that I feel like need it. After I go through all these repairs, I finish sealing the base with shellac. It's just an easy spray to use. I forgot to hit record when doing that process, but I wanted to mention it since you won't see it. Okay, we're finally done. And as a reminder, here's where we started. Lots of scratches, lots of dings. And here it is. I am so happy that this turned out exactly how I envisioned. I really wanted that dark black on top and then a beautiful wood base on the bottom as a great contrast. And then the liner, I think, really complements the black paint and then the tones of the wood. This one ended up selling pretty quickly for me. It sold in less than a week for $475, which is pretty good for a Tallboy because dressers often sell much more easily. But what about you? I'd love to know your thoughts on this flip, and if you're not already subscribed, I'd love for you to follow along to see the future projects that I'm working on. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.